Hello, hello. Oh, good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. It is Sunday dinner, once again. The best part of Sunday, potentially the week. Let's start off with our song recommendation. Today's vibe, I think, has been Melinda by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. The live version. You can find that on Spotify. Melinda Live, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Great song, great piano. That's Benmont Tench, pianist for the Heartbreakers. Big 2-3 minute solo right in the middle of the song. Really gets the crowd going. That's why you listen to the live stuff, so you can hear the crowd. But yeah, that's my song recommendation. Go listen to that. Rip Tom Petty. Otherwise, we've got our purple lights on over there on the bookshelf for Slipspace, because as a Christmas gift, my brother Joshua got me a Slipspace figure in the Funko Pop style. Let me grab that. So you can see right there, we got Slipp McMahon. He's got his hood, his rain cloak that inflates, camouflage, all that stuff. He's got his body armor there, right, his mercenary armor, and he's holding his caseless KC-45 pistol, KC-41 pistol, my bad. I wrote the book, I should know this. Very cool stuff, custom made. My brother and his girlfriend, they put that together. Great stuff. Surprised he knew how well what Slipp looked like. But yeah, shout out to Josh. So Slipp is up there with Thomas now, just chilling, and we're gonna have his colors on the shelf back there. I'll try to get the microphone out of your way. But today I'm eating deconstructed hamburger with rice and cheese and blue cheese, because we double dip the cheese here. But that's not what you guys are here to listen to. You're here to listen to two things today. One, Squid Game. Squid Game Season 2. Do you love it? Do you hate it? It's out after Season 1, which was kind of a cultural movement, sort of. Kind of infected in a good way. Lots of other media. We saw it in video games. We saw it in a live game show. YouTubers all over wanted to do their own versions of it. So, doubtless, it was a very, very popular, important piece of media. And it lended itself to a second season. That's kind of how the first one ended. We all knew it was going to have one. But is it any good? Does it live up to that? I would say I've only watched the first episode or so. It's off to an interesting start. The weaker parts of Season 1, in my opinion, which is always correct, is that the sort of detective side story in Season 1 was more or less the weakest part. It wasn't all that interesting. You could have gotten rid of it and the same point would have been made. The interesting stuff was the character work in the game itself. And I think the producers realized that, which is why this one seems, from the promotional material, like there's another games that the main character is going through again, which is weird on its own, but we'll see how they get there. But anyways, obviously that detective story, that detective subplot, has to be more important in Season 2, because that ended on a cliffhanger. So in the first episode, you immediately see that. You immediately get the sort of reuniting with that character, what he's been up to. He's a traffic cop now. On its own, I wouldn't really have liked that, but they do explain that he's kind of, I guess he's searching in his own time, trying to get back to the island. None of the pictures that he sent or the messages from his phone made it out. So he couldn't provide any real evidence to the police. So he just kind of pretends to the police that he's not looking anymore, but then he goes out on his own time, which is an interesting direction. He says he's working as a traffic cop because the evidence is clear or something. Like it's super easy. Like we fight with evidence. You know, firefighters fight fire with water. We fight crime with evidence. And the evidence for traffic crime is easy because it happens right in front of you. I don't know if I agree with that logic, but good on him. Good on him. We get to see the tall guy with the business cards who throws the collar things, recruiting people for the games. He was, I don't know. He might have been the most interesting, the most fun part of this episode. I think, hands down, the lead is the best actor. Phenomenal actor. You know, even as an English speaker who doesn't speak, Korean, I'm in awe of his performance. There's a moment where he's in the motel and he gets the hell scared out of him, going to open the door. It ends up being a dream sequence, but his emotion is so marvelously portrayed. I really can't give enough props to him. It's a shame that Star Wars wasted him. And he was the best part of that show. Maybe the only good part of that show was him and his performance. He carried all the emotional weight, and he does so here as well. He really, really acts his ass off, for lack of a better word. But love him. But this character, this recruiter for the games, he goes and he screws with a bunch of homeless people for no reason, seemingly no reason. He recruits somebody at the subway station and gives them the Squid Game card. But then he just goes and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna buy 100 loaves of bread and 100 scratch-off tickets, and I'm gonna go give all these homeless people in the park a choice, pick one or the other, and he knows they're all gonna pick the scratch-off card because they're homeless, and his opinion is that homeless people are homeless because they make bad decisions, and so he's anticipating that result, and a 99 out of 100 choose the scratch-off ticket, like he assumed. But he doesn't recruit any of them. He doesn't gain anything. He's just a hater for the love of the game. He's just going to the park, destroying loaves of bread on the sidewalk, and telling homeless people they made the wrong choice for no reason. Not making money, not recruiting people. It's just a hater. You gotta respect it. So that was the most interesting part of the episode. There's some Russian roulette stuff, a little bit contrived towards the end. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It was pulse pounding, I'll give it that. A lot of suspense. It just, you have to have a little suspension of disbelief. It almost proves the opposite point as well, because Mr. Recruiter guy, he tells our lead, he tells him, if you don't take this shot, the 5th shot of the 6-shot gun, if you don't take it and you just shoot me instead, or shoot as many times as it takes to get to the final bullet, you're admitting that you only won Squid Game because of luck. But I would argue it's probably the opposite, right? If you're on the 5th out of 6 slots in the revolver, playing Russian roulette, and you pop yourself instead of trying to shoot the other guy, you're banking on your luck. You're saying, well, I'm lucky enough that I'll get through this, and the 6th shot will be the one that actually fires. So it feels like taking that route actually convinces me that this guy's just really lucky. I don't think it took courage, grit, I guess, but it didn't take any real skill to, boom, oh, the bullet wasn't in that one. So I don't think it got the right point across. I think it made the wrong point. But whatever, it was tense, and now Mr. Recruiter guy is Kerplooey. So going to be real interesting to see where it goes from there and how he gets back into the games. Overall, I would say this episode doesn't come close to episode 6 of season 1. That's probably one of the best episodes of anything. Emotionally, character payoffs, all that. Doesn't come close to that. It's nowhere near the best episode in the series, but it was fun. It had to get us back to, caught up with everybody. We had to see where these characters were, and it confidently killed off a couple returning characters, which I can respect. I like when returning characters die. If you read my books, you know that. So I'm all for it. I did some things a little clunkily. There was a lot of, as you know, moments where characters tell each other stuff they should have already been well aware of, so that we, the audience, can catch up on it. But it gets us where we need to be, and I'm interested to see what happens next. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. But that's Squid Game Season 2. As for books, our book discussion today, I recently decided, since New Jedi Order is a topic of conversation, because Disney's threatening to make a movie called New Jedi Order, I would start reading that old series. I was a big fan of Star Wars EU, Star Wars Legends as it's called now. And so I read a lot of those books when I was really little, up to like the Fate of the Jedi, Legacy of the Force stuff. So I wanted to go back to that. I recently reread the Timothy Zahn books, the Thrawn trilogy, and then the Hand of Thrawn duology. I've got Survivor's Quest up there. Still waiting to reread that one. But I wanted to jump into New Jedi Order. And so I read through this first one to cap off the year. This is Vector Prime. It introduces the Yuuzhan Vong, which is like one of the most famous villainous groups from Legends. Another thing that Disney keeps threatening to bring into their canon, which I hope they don't. But super cool. I think this book is underrated, honestly. This book gets a lot of flack because of its boldness. So if you haven't read this book, I recommend going and reading it. If you have any interest in reading it, if you plan on reading it, then don't listen to what I'm about to say, because I'm going to spoil the hell out of it. But this book does some very bold things. The boldest thing it does, by far, and this is the spoiler, it kills a returning character. It kills a Star Wars, like, movie character. And that character is Chewbacca. Now this is set decades after the movies, decades after Return of the Jedi. It is, the cast is older. Han and Leia are married. They have 3 kids. Luke is married to Mara Jade, character from the Thrawn books. And so they're in this redeveloped galaxy where the New Republic's big and the Empire's kind of in its own enclave. The war between the rebels / New Republic and the Empire's over, and we're kind of just way down the line. Like there's new problems to face, smaller scale, planetary, almost like how things were in the days of pre-Clone Wars. So that's where we catch up with everyone. But behind the scenes, some of these planetary struggles are connected. And, excuse me. And we catch up with a couple of these scientists on a planet on the outer edge of the galaxy. I think it's called X-Gal. Something like that. But they watch something, they're monitoring the outer unexplored regions of the galaxy. And so they see this this like almost meteor come in from outside the galaxy, and it kind of plummets into an ice planet in their system. And so these scientists are like, oh, we need to go check it out. And that is the arrival of the extragalactic Yuuzhan Vong, who are from a different galaxy. I really, really like these villains. I know it's it's not the most controversial Star Wars thing anymore. Thankfully and unthankfully, Star Wars fans have a lot more things to disagree about now. But back in the day, you know, it was the Yuuzhan Vong that was the hot topic of debate in the Star Wars community, because it really shakes up the galaxy, shakes up the Star Wars universe. And I can see where the inspiration comes from. That's what I like about them. They represent something sort of meta in the story. They kind of remind me a little bit of Dune. And if you think about the 90s, early 2000s, you know, Star Wars was, I mean, they obviously had the prequels, which revitalized Star Wars' popularity. But before the prequels, there was this sort of lack of Star Wars content. You know, people were reading these books because they didn't have movies, they didn't have a whole lot of TV or anything to go to for Star Wars. So other sci-fi was really kind of taking the forefront a little bit. And one such thing was Dune. Dune has always been popular. Dune came before Star Wars, but the attitude that Dune presents is a little more, I don't like to say cynical, but like it's not objective good, objective evil. You know, it's muddied, it's gray. It's like what Game of Thrones did to fantasy, you know? And so Paul Atreides isn't a hero in Dune. He can be looked at that way. The audience can interpret him that way however they want. But it's not an objective, this is the hero on the hero's journey. Paul is a tragic character. And he sort of subverts that idea of the hero stepping up and saving the universe. He actually causes a lot of harm. Deaths of billions of people. And so that attitude, that sort of nihilism, where it's like, even if you're the hero, like, there's so much death, you know, what's the point? That sort of hopelessness, it really manifests in the Yuuzhan Vong. Yuuzhan Vong are also very biological, right? A lot of parallels to the Dune universe. All their tech's biological. They hate artificial intelligence. They despise it. They see a droid, it's like it's the 60s race relations. They do not like this guy. C-3PO, right? They get one look at him, they're throwing him out the back of the car. Rover, whatever. They are anti-AI, anti-droid, and all their technology that they use to travel between galaxies is biologically evolved, goopy, you know, mucky stuff. And it's supposed to be a little bit of a reflection of that, because that's how it is in Dune. Dune had the destruction of AI, which was a world-building device that was meant to kind of lower the technological extremes of the Dune universe. And so, at its core, the Yuuzhan Vong are an outside source, right outside the galaxy, coming into the galaxy, outside of Star Wars, coming into Star Wars. They are this outside thing that represents what Star Wars isn't. Pessimism, hopelessness, you know, ruthlessness, the moral gray. And they're coming into the Star Wars universe and they're challenging it. They're saying, we're stronger than you, you're gonna bow down to us, your Jedi, you know, your universal good doesn't mean anything to us. It's gonna crumble. And they really beat the hell out of people for the first, like, 3/4 of the book. They get a Jedi captive, and they start to wear down his mind. They make him think he's gonna die. They challenge his belief. You know, he starts to question, you know, how peaceful and calm he is about his existence. He fears death, and it's that core theme, right? It's universal good, universal hope, challenged by the grayness of sort of reality, but also just another way to look at things. And it's really cool. It's really cool when you look at it from that perspective. So I think the Yuuzhan Vong are an awesome villain. And I think this book really does a good job establishing them, establishing what they represent. But back to my earlier point, the killing of Chewbacca. I think that is such a bold choice, especially with the first book in a new series, right? You have to do something like that. That's how they set themselves apart, right? A lot of times people think of the new Jedi Order, that's like, oh, that's where Star Wars diverges in the EU. That's like the crazy divergence point between the sequels and the EU. And it's not. A lot happens before that in the EU legends that separates it from Disney canon. But people always think of Yuuzhan Vong, the Yuuzhan Vong War. Oh, that's the next big thing after the Empire. And in a way it is, but it's, you know, it's got that popularity because these books made such an impact. And so the very first book in the series, R.A. Salvador, he says, we're going to kill a character from the films. We're going to kill the beloved comic relief sidekick character. You know, he's going to get crushed by a moon. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm the reader reading that for the first time. I'm like, well, how are they going to, you know, make up for this? How are they going to avenge Chewbacca? Like, who else could die? And they have a scene at the very end of this book, the epilogue, essentially, where Han Solo's talking to Leia, and he says, essentially, the plot armor's gone. He describes it as a bubble. He says to Leia, you know, I always envisioned that we were in this bubble. You know, you, me, Luke, Mara, even the kids, you know, we were always in this bubble where we could go on any adventure, we could face any threat, and we were always going to get out of it. Even if the people around us hurt, even if there's untold destruction, we would always make it out. And that's him essentially acknowledging that they've been protected. Those characters have been safe. And it's not realistic. It isn't. You know, the stuff that they go through, every near-death experience. Obviously, the Force is a thing. It's a religious thing. You say, oh, the Force protects them. But you need to have a degree of believability to it. And so decades after the films take place, this book says, guess what? That bubble is gone. They're not safe anymore. Chewbacca's dead. And someone else might be. Other characters could die. Other characters could turn to the dark side. It's really, really impactful, that choice that they made. And I know a lot of the old school Star Wars fans hated it. They hated killing Chewbacca. That was the character you weren't supposed to kill. Disney did the reverse, and they killed Han Solo. Probably partly because of that. I know Harrison Ford didn't want to do any more movies, so that was probably part of it. But the other part was, you don't kill Chewbacca. You can't do that. But this book did. This book was bold enough to do that. And so, you know, me being a kill your characters, kill your darlings enjoyer, I really appreciate that. I appreciate the boldness of it. I think I would have done the same. It's a good thing I didn't write the Star Wars books, because I probably would have killed more characters sooner, potentially. I don't think you have to kill characters to write a good story or to keep readers interested, but I think it's a hell of a way to do it. And it's certainly a bold choice if you're an author for a franchise like this, to say, yeah, this character, I'm going to be the one to kill him. And they killed him respectfully. You know, he was saving people. It was same old Chewie. Chewie did what Chewie does. And, you know, it means a lot more when they die, when they go out doing something like that, versus when they go out as a hermit, hiding on their own planet in the movies, letting all their friends die around them. That was a catastrophe. But this isn't about the movies, this is about the book. And I think they did it very tastefully. I think Chewbacca went out roaring, arms wide, screaming at the moon. And that's a respectful way to put him down. And now these characters have to deal with that. We get to see Han Solo's psychological struggles, his strifes, his conflict with his son, who is partly responsible for what happened, and this war against this threat so powerful it broke the plot armor. That's what the Yuuzhan Vong are. They are the Star Wars antagonists that broke the plot armor, even in a novel, instead of a movie. So great stuff there. Highly recommend it. I'm gonna read the next one. I think the next one's a two-parter, so 2 books. But love being back into this. Love reading these in between indie books. I'm still judging Sphinx, which is the indie novella competition. But I like to split off, read a Star Wars book, read a Reacher book every now and then. Keeps the juices flowing, gives you a diverse range of things to read from. So that's what I got for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Make sure you eat, make sure you exercise, and go listen to Melinda live by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I'll catch you guys another time.